So will Republicans make it happen? Will they pass this bill so Americans can get back to work? Joining me now is Congressman Tom Cole, Republican from Oklahoma. Congressman, thank you for coming on the show.
Reverend, thanks for having me.
Are you going to listen to the American people and pass this bill?
I'm going to listen to my constituents, and I'm certainly willing to sit down and there's some things in it I can agree with. There's some things, quite frankly, I can't and won't. And we're going to have a pretty serious discussion about how the president's plan's paid for. So it's a process. We'll work through it. But I don't think you begin a negotiation by saying, do everything my way automatically. Nobody's going to do that.
Now, you say how we pay for it. Let's look at a graph of how the president is talking about paying for this, because the Republicans said from the beginning, how are we going to pay for whatever the president's plan is? Well, he's come with how he's going to pay for it. He says oil and gas companies, tax breaks, end hedge fund managers, end those making over $200K a year, corporate jets, all of these tax breaks, ending them, which only affect the very rich, is how he pays for providing jobs. What's wrong with that, Congressman?
Well, first of all, what the president wants is to give you a temporary tax cut for a permanent tax increase. Not all those things, by the way, that he proposes are for the rich. You're talking about the oil and gas industry, a place like where I'm from, Oklahoma. That's what provides employment to tens of thousands of average Oklahomans. And you start doing some of the things the president's talking about, will just offshore production to Saudi Arabia and OPEC in general, lower American production, cost American jobs. It's a really poorly thought out idea. Now, there's some things the president's got.
Wait a minute. What about the profits in oil and gas? Let's not act like people are in the oil and gas business to take care of the working class in your district, anybody else's district.
Actually, they are in business to provide jobs, but now any company is in business to make money. But the reality is the money they make, they reinvest in exploration and production right here at home. So I think it's a mistake. But having said that, there's some things I agree with the president on. His willingness to finally accept 3 free trade deals, I think, is admirable. We ought to act on that immediately. Again, we can do some payroll tax cuts. Remember, they're always going to be temporary. Sooner or later, you got to pay for Social Security, but we're willing to look at some of those things, and certainly some of the infrastructure proposals. Although I think, frankly, turning the Congress into the school board for the United States, building local schools, is really not our job. Our job is national in scope. Those are traditionally functions left to state and local governments.
Well, if you've got 35,000 schools that could stand repair nationally, and you can provide jobs. Well, you talked about your district. Let's look at your district. Census came out today saying that we have more poor people than we've had since they've been counting them. In your district, home, you, 10.1% living below the poverty line. In your district, 22.4% making less than $25,000 a year. Rich people in your district, only 1.8. So, I mean, in your district, you have more reason to be concerned about providing jobs and breaking poverty than most. And certainly you're not going to tell me that a guy has a corporate jet because he wants to get around easier to provide jobs.
Well, if you recall, Reverend, that's actually a tax cut proposal that the president put in his first stimulus bill. So I'm happy to see that go. But he's the one that proposed it and kept it in the tax code. The reality is some portions of the tax code do stimulate employment and jobs. But again, let's have a discussion about that. Let's sit down, find the areas we can agree. I've pointed out several.
But shouldn't we start by being honest? And being honest is that certainly the rich in this country's got to do more. And we need to be honest about stimulus. The fact is that you brought up the first stimulus bill. It provided jobs. I mean, look at what Rick Perry said. Look at what Rick Perry said last night. Before I show you my graph on the jobs, Rick Perry said last night that the stimulus bill did not provide jobs. Let me show you what he said. A candidate in your party.
He had $800 billion worth of stimulus in the first round of stimulus. It created 0 jobs. $400+ billion in this package, and I can do the math on that one. Half of 0 jobs is going to be 0 jobs.
Now, if you look at the facts, because that, Congressman, my mother would call a bald-faced lie, what he just said. Look at the facts. The facts are, if you look at the graph of what happened before and after the stimulus, third quarter 2008, economy shrank 3.7%. Fourth quarter 2008, shrank 8.9%. 2009, the economy grew by 1.9% and added 2.9 million jobs. The CBO, Congressional Budget Office, Commerce Department, established these facts. Why are we going to say let's have a conversation if we're not going to be honest?
Well, first of all, the unemployment was higher after the stimulus than when it was passed. The president said unemployment. Let me finish my argument, Reverend. The president said unemployment would never go above 8%. The reality is it hasn't gotten below 8%. The stimulus said at this point unemployment would be at 6% and going down. It's not.
Because we didn't have enough
stimulus. Well, look, the president got what he asked for. He had overwhelming majorities.
He got what he asked for based on misinformation. But Congressman,
I don't think so. He had the votes to pass.
Are you willing to concede that the stimulus did provide jobs? That was the question.
Provided some jobs, but no net new jobs.
So then you disagree with Governor Perry. Then you disagree, Governor Perry.
The word I would have used is no net new jobs, and I think that would have been a little more precise.
No net new jobs.
That's correct.
Okay, so they were new jobs, but they were no net.
There were no net new jobs. Look, unemployment is higher today than the day the stimulus was passed into law. So we can argue forever as to whether or not it created some jobs, but it didn't have the effect that the president said it was going to have. Unemployment went considerably higher than he thought it would. It's considerably higher today than he predicted it would be. And you're asking us now, given that track record, to accept a second stimulus package about half the size, paid for by raising taxes.
No, not at all. What I'm asking you to do is to be honest. And what you're saying is not what Perry said last night. And I repeat, what Perry said last night was a bald-faced lie. And you can talk any way you want. He did not say what you're saying. He said it did not provide jobs. He said zero. I know what zero meant. That's not true. And this stimulus package would provide jobs as well. Let's be honest, Congressman.
That's what I'm trying to be.
All right. Thank you for joining me this evening.
Thank you, Reverend.
Coming up, the ugly truth